Hey everyone, and welcome to Tony For You. Persona social links. Some love them, some hate them, but I would argue they're an integral part to the stories being told in the game. That being said, the enjoyment of these links varies from person to person as they tell a deeply unique sub-story that can connect with you or be lost. But that's the beauty of them too. In today's video, I'll be going over my personal top 5 favorites. Okay, some ground rules for this list. I will rank these social links on how interesting they are as stories and how they develop the character and the world, not about how useful they are to you as a confidant. Sorry, Persona 5. I will also be omitting social links and confidants that develop naturally over the course of the story, because they are so integral to the plot that it wouldn't make sense. So no investigation team or Akechi, as much as it pains me to say. As I said, these are entirely my opinion, so feel free to let me know your personal favorites in the comments. Needless to say, this will go deep into spoiler territory for almost every Persona game. Without any further ado, let's get into it, starting with Number 5. Naoki Konishi of the Hanged Man Arcana in Persona 4. Naoki holds a special place in my heart as the grim reminder of how loss can affect people. Throughout the game of Persona 4, there are adult themes portrayed, but the overall tone is more lighthearted, especially earlier on into the game. It makes it easy to forget about those going through struggle throughout the story. Naoki is the brother of Saki Konishi, who dies shortly into the prologue of Persona 4. Her death affects Yosuke in a serious way as well, as portrayed throughout his social link, but ultimately is used as a stepping stone to get the party investigating. Your average player wouldn't think much of the character at first, even if you were astute enough to recognize her as an NPC in the beginning of the game. When you first see Naoki, it frames the death and the game in an entirely new light. This investigation isn't something to be taken lightly, and there's much more at stake here than you might realize. A person's life, no matter how young, old, rich or poor, has value, and their life being stolen is a tragedy that could destroy a person and a family. Her death also being so public and horrible lended to the depressive spiral Naoki went through, as it affected his social and personal life greatly. At the point you meet him, his presence alone is enough to bring a melancholic tone to the room. Naoki is expected to know if things are or aren't appropriate regarding his emotions and even day-to-day life. No one has the right to tell people how to feel. Looking for affirmation on your own feelings is a waste of time. Life isn't a movie, and people react to things differently, even something as horrible as the passing of a loved one. Lucky for Naoki, thanks to the investigation team, his sister's killer will be caught. Also good for Naoki is the player's ability to befriend and support Naoki on the road to overcoming the death of his sister. Quite a grim social link, but one I think is done very well. Do not ask for whom the bell tolls. It tolls for thee. Number 4. Jinpei Iori of the Magician Arcana in Persona 3 Portable. Jinpei is somewhat of a personal favorite of mine. Say what you will about Persona 3 as a game, but I think the main cast of characters and how they interact with each other is spot on, especially Jinpei. His struggling with the fact that the player is named the leader ahead of him, struggle with his lack of self-worth, and the struggle with the lack of purpose throughout the game are all things I think we can relate to. Especially in the developing years of high school, struggling with a sense of self and purpose is extremely common, compounded with a difficult home life, but this is rarely portrayed extensively. Throughout the game, you see him upset and lash out at you, which really humanizes him, as friends rarely always get along. I mean, honestly, if a guy that looked like this was chosen to be a leader before you, you'd be pretty upset too. Jinpei talks at great length about how he copes with his family and social life, not taking anything seriously and using humor to escape the harsh realities of the neglect he faces due to his father's alcoholism. He's more similar to his father than he may think, as he refuses to accept and face reality. With the help of the protagonist, you can let him understand other people a bit more and lower his defenses he's raised his whole life. Not everyone is perfect. Not everyone does things that make sense. Everyone has parts of them that are cool and lame, but everyone's doing the best for themselves. Jinpei comes to regret not having done his best at anything. Nothing ventured, nothing gained, as they say. In doing so, he never truly feels happy in the things that he does, because all he does, he feels that he has to. Spending your life avoiding problems will get you nowhere fast. And with the player's help, he can come to understand this. In some cases, you don't have to solve others' problems. You need to allow them to solve it themselves. Jinpei goes through a lot, but his growth as a character is something to behold. Number 3. Futaba Sakura of the Hermit Arcana in Persona 5. Her story is a little less relatable than the ones we previously talked about, but I think there definitely is some portion we can see ourselves in her character arc. Futaba is probably the best portrayal of the hermit arcana, as at first, she can't even leave the house by herself. Due to the passing of her mother and severe guilt, she ends up as a shut-in and even forgoes going to school. Futaba is an extreme case, but I think many of us can relate to isolating ourselves to a somewhat unhealthy degree with our obsessions. Maybe that's why I like her so much. Seeing a girl so thoroughly hopeless, seeming to try her best, little by little, is incredibly endearing. Feeling like you can't do something, whether you're unqualified or unworthy, are extremely human responses to difficult situations, especially if the situation is one we put ourselves in. Futaba, even at her worst, still wanted to get better under all the layers of self-sabotage and guilt. With the player's help, Futaba follows through with all the goals she sets herself as best she can. The worst thing we can do as people is wallow in self-doubt and feelings of inadequacy, much like Jinpei came to realize, but in a different scenario. Escapism can only get you so far. Putting things off can only placate you and the people around you for so long. The way Futaba puts small goals together, and while not always accomplish everything perfectly that she sets out to do, at the very least tries her best, is something we can all learn from. Her need to correct past wrongs goes even further than just herself though, as she feels she owes an apology for reading her elementary school friend's diary well into her teenage years. Interactions with people, no matter how small, can have a profound effect on people's lives. I should remember that next time I get into an argument about which Persona game's the best. Number 2. Naoto Shirogane of the Fortune Arcana in Persona 4. I had to put her on here because she is the waifu. Regardless though, I really do love her social links arc. Naoto's is a story of passion, and how over time other factors can wear you down. The link starts off a bit fantastical with a phantom thief in the Shirogane estate, but after the first few links though, you and her come to realize that this seems to be something targeting her specifically. Eventually you find out this thief is Naoto's worried grandfather. The link is a slow burn that gives hints as to the intent of each riddle you solve with her. Ultimately, what was once such an innocent passion for mysteries was warped into the need to be accepted and acknowledged by others, and over the course of the link, she comes to realize what's important is her roots. When someone becomes so obsessed with a goal that they would do anything to achieve it, is when a person loses balance. Passion is something I greatly admire in people, but true passion comes from the genuine love of something, not feeling as though you have to do so for status or for acceptance. Over time, Naoto hated her circumstances and blamed everything on them, being born female, being too young, etc. She felt like she could never succeed just by the circumstances of her birth. Naoto's grandfather and you help her discover the real reason she has a passion for detective work, which is as simple as, it's fun. Money and fame are all great, but to be truly good at something, I think you need to have fun with it to a certain degree. Life is a balancing act we all perform in, and Naoto's lost sight of what she enjoyed in pursuit of acceptance, goals unachieved for reasons she made up. You and her family grounded her when she needed it most, and now she has a place to stay. Her mystery solving is impressive, but she's a great dancer too. Naoto's the best girl. Before we get into number 1, let's do some honorable mentions. The Old Couple from Persona 3. I have a soft spot for old people, and seeing them care so much about their son is really heartwarming. Nanako Dojima from Persona 4. She's so cute, isn't she? Sojiro Sakura from Persona 5. Coffee Dad cares for you. Ko Ichijo from Persona 4. Home is what you make of it. It's all about perception. Number 1. Ichiko Oya. Nah, I'm just playing. Number 1. Ryotaro Dojima of the Hierophant Arcana in Persona 4. Everyone's favorite Chad dad has a very heartwarming story. His is a story of revenge, but not the rage-filled kind we're used to in fiction. Throughout all of his social link, it becomes more and more clear that he's keeping up his search for his own sake. He's running away from the reality of being without his wife. While it may seem fine on the surface, he's a very distant man with others, and even his daughter Nanako, the price of which is felt throughout the game and within their respective social links. He uses his long work hours as an excuse to forego facing his daughter, who day by day is reminding him more and more of his late wife Chisato. To me, this social link stresses the importance of balance. Losing his wife destroyed Dojima in a way that could not be easily moved past. Dojima rejected everything in his pursuit to find the person who ran over Chisato, but he didn't do it just to find the criminal, rather as an escape from his now fractured home. Dojima speaks at great lengths about how he doesn't even feel like he deserves to be a part of Nanako's family anymore, and yet, in her own social link, it shows that he values Nanako's happiness above all else, even his own. Thankfully, the more time he spends with Yu, the more he comes to realize that he can still be a great father to Nanako and find his wife's killer, not for himself, but because that's his job. His wife will always be dear to him, as she should be. Yu just made him realize that he doesn't need to give up what he loves. He makes great coffee too. Oh, well that's that. They said making a countdown video would be easy, but choosing just 5 social links to talk about was a tall order, and there's so much more to say for each link. I know this is a heavily opinion-based topic, and your list might be completely different from mine, so feel free to let me know what that list is in the comments down below. Social links are what turns Persona from a good video game franchise to a great one. And I hope my bias towards Persona 4 didn't come out too bad. It is my favorite game in the series, by the way. Maybe even one of the best games I've ever played. That's a video for another time. Anyway, if you liked the video, give it a like. If you really liked it, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next Tony for You. Have a good one.